Did I really defame St. Luke's, or is something else going on here? That's what I'd like to address. And if I've assessed this correctly, St. Luke's executives will go as far as having Diego and I killed to silence us. Now that is a huge statement, I realize. So I will give proof of this at the end of the video. But first, I'm going to give absolute evidence to the question, did I defame St. Luke's, or is something else going on here? Now, there are 4 elements that have to be met before statements can be considered legally defamatory. 1, someone has to make a statement. 2, the statement must be published. 3, the statement must cause injury. And 4, the statement must be false. In fact, FIND law says defamation law will only consider statements defamatory if they are in fact false. A true statement is not considered defamation. Cornell law backs us up and says to prove defamation, a plaintiff must show a false statement purporting to be fact. So it's all about whether it was true what I said and Diego said or not. Did I lie? To me, if I lied, that is a very serious sin. It's a very serious offense to God. So let's consider the evidence with the elements of defamation. Were my statements about St. Luke's staff, Meridian Police, or CPS agents false? Besides the statements that St. Luke's CEO and attorneys lied about in the court documents, there are 7 statements that they claim I made that were defamatory. So let's look at these statements and the supporting evidence so you can determine if the statements are false statements or true statements, so you can make the decision yourself. Statement number 1. St. Luke's parties initiated and caused the state's intervention relating to the infant. Now, these are not my exact words by any means, but let's just go with this statement as they're written in the complaint. Did anyone working for St. Luke's initiate or cause the taking of baby Cyrus? That's the question. In the St. Luke's complaint, it reads, quote, neither Dr. Erickson nor any St. Luke's employee initiated with child welfare or any other division of DHS or DHW regarding the infant's hospitalization. However, in a statement from Marissa, Cyrus' mother, she said this. She said, Dr. Natasha Erickson told us that if we wanted to leave against medical advice, that she would call Child Protective Services. And then that day, a social worker came into the hospital room and questioned me. She started off by saying, I heard you guys wanted to leave early. Why is that? She also asked, how is your home life and living conditions? How are your finances? What does your husband do for work? Does he treat you well? Do you work? Do you have food in your pantry? Why don't you have insurance? Why haven't you applied for Medicaid? Can you afford to buy food from the hospital cafe here while you're here? Here's the St. Luke's report confirming Marissa's statement, confirming that she was being honest. It says right here, social worker met with mother Marissa at bedside and completed evaluation. Now, I don't think threatening parents to have their child taken away from them by CPS because they are questioning a doctor's medical advice is professional, ethical, or moral. However, the question here is, did St. Luke's party initiate or cause CPS to get involved? Here's a St. Luke's report indicating that Tracy Jungman, an employee of St. Luke's, attempted to contact Cyrus's family, and when she could not make contact, quote, health and welfare and law enforcement became involved. Here it is. You can see it for yourself. Here's another St. Luke's report from Dr. Jay Price, another employee of St. Luke's, stating that he contacted Meridian Police Department. Here it is. You can read it. Isn't that interesting? Here's another St. Luke's report after they took Cyrus. This report shows that Dr. Natasha Erickson was in close communication with the social workers and CPS and was listed as the referral name. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but here's the report right here. Natasha Erickson, MD, referral name. Now, this report also shows that St. Luke's staff, CPS agents, and law enforcement had a meeting, and it was decided not to allow, quote, the patient's parents to visit while in the hospital. This explains why Marissa and Levi were stopped by St. Luke's security from seeing and being with their baby in the hospital. So here are the circumstantial evidence that St. Luke's parties initiated and caused the state's intervention relating to the infant. 1. Dr. Natasha Erickson threatened to call CPS if Cyrus's parents did not follow her medical demands. 2. Within a few hours of Dr. Erickson's threat, a social worker showed up in the hospital room asking personal and invasive questions. 3. St. Luke's nurse, Tracy Jungman, reported that after she could not make contact with Cyrus's parents, quote, health and welfare and law enforcement became involved. 4. Reports show that Dr. Erickson was in close communication with the social workers and CPS and was listed as the referral name. 5. Dr. J. Price, another employee of St. Luke, stated that, quote, he contacted Meridian Police Department. Circumstantial evidence certainly indicates that St. Luke's had a part in initiating and causing the state's intervention relating to the infant. Therefore, my statement that St. Luke's participated in taking baby Cyrus is an honest statement and cannot be legally considered defamatory. Statement number 2. The infant had no need for medical care from St. Luke's parties. Again, these are not my words, but St. Luke's attorney's words. I did say Cyrus was a healthy and happy, beautiful little boy with loving parents.
CPS ordered the Meridian Police to take the baby away. And it's just wickedness. He's a healthy, happy, and he couldn't be loved more by parents. And we're in such terrible shape where the government can just take our babies away for any reason. It's just sickening. This is a healthy, happy, beautiful little baby with loving parents, loving aunts and uncles, loving grandparents.
Now, let's look at the evidence to determine if this statement was defamatory to St. Luke's or not. Element 1 and 2, yes, I made the statements, and yes, it was published. 3, did this statement harm St. Luke's parties? No. How could the statement that Cyrus was a healthy and happy, beautiful little boy with loving parents harm St. Luke's executives and staff? It could not, unless St. Luke's misrepresented the truth about Cyrus's health to provide cover for CPS and Meridian Police and their participation in taking him. I presented this evidence in another video called 52 Million, No Wonder They Lied to the Jury. In this video, I showed baby Cyrus right before they took him, and then I presented the medical records and police body cam videos as evidence of the contradictions and misrepresentations of St. Luke's staff and attorneys. I have linked this video in the description below. Ultimately, Cyrus was having trouble with processing proteins, and it was causing him to vomit when his parents introduced some solid foods. But he was able to breastfeed while they were working to find a solution. He was primarily healthy and never in imminent danger. Never. The videos and medical records give evidence of this. It is absurd to claim that my statement, Cyrus being a healthy and happy, beautiful little boy, is defamatory to St. Luke's. Therefore, my statement that Cyrus is a healthy and happy, beautiful little boy with loving parents did not cause St. Luke's harm and is not false. Therefore, it cannot legally be considered defamatory. Statement number 3. St. Luke's parties provided unnecessary and improper medical care. I'm not sure if I said this or not. I'm certain I didn't say it the way that is written in the complaint, but let's look at the facts on this subject anyway. The definition of health care is efforts made to maintain or restore physical, mental, or emotional well-being, especially by trained and licensed professionals. Here's a list of acts St. Luke's CPS workers or Meridian Police did that did not help maintain or restore Cyrus's physical, mental, or emotional well-being. forcefully ripped Cyrus out of his mother's arms, took Cyrus away from his main source of nutrition, his mother, knowing that Cyrus needed breast milk, denied the family lawyer to obtain the needed equipment to bring in breast milk to Cyrus. In fact, Dr. Rachel Thomas is seen smirking about the lawyer's request. Fed Cyrus foreign formulas that caused the cyclic vomiting to flare up. Did not allow Cyrus's mother to bring breast milk to the hospital for several days, denying Cyrus necessary breast milk that he needed for nutrition. Kept Cyrus away from his family and loved ones for several days while in apprehensive conditions, causing him to have serious separation anxiety that was not present prior. Put a feeding tube and IV in Cyrus for hydration and nutrition instead of monitoring his health while his mother was breastfeeding him. Inserted a used feeding tube that was not clean or sterilized. Therefore, according to the evidence by St. Luke's own medical records, the statement that St. Luke's parties provided unnecessary and improper medical care is true and cannot legally be considered defamatory. Statement number 4. St. Luke's parties harmed the infant. I don't believe that St. Luke's doctors or nurses maliciously harmed Cyrus, but they did harm him. Evidence shows that while in the care of St. Luke's staff, Cyrus was left in his vomit long enough to cause acid burns on his face. Here's the medical note, and here are the pictures of his face. Also, even though Cyrus's cyclic vomiting syndrome is mostly gone, Cyrus does suffer today with what they call C. diff infection, and it's very hard to get rid of. As the Mayo Clinic points out, C. diff is contracted in hospitals and other healthcare facilities. Here's a report. Also, the C. diff infection is directly connected to unsanitized nasal feeding tubes. Here's another medical report. Cyrus had pulled the nasal feeding tube out. The tube was out for several hours. Medical records show that CARES nurse Tracy Jungman reinserted the feeding tube into Cyrus. But the parents noticed something that has become significant now that Cyrus has C. diff. Here's the parent's statement about what they saw, speaking of Nurse Jungman. She replaced it on the day he was returned back to us, March 18th. We had to meet her at the IDHW office, and she inserted the tube with unwashed and ungloved hands and didn't clean off the tube, unquote. With this information and other evidence, the statement, St. Luke's parties harmed the infant, is factually correct and therefore cannot legally be considered defamatory. Statement number 5. Mr. Roth, St. Luke's CEO, personally profited from the pandemic. Here's a report of the 2022 wages for St. Luke's health system. Prior to COVID, Chris Roth was the chief operating officer for St. Luke's health system, making over $800,000 a year, working 40 hours per week. At the beginning of COVID, the old CEO retired. He reportedly made $8,564,000 the year Chris Roth took over as CEO. So much for a nonprofit, right? St. Luke's health system received more COVID funds than any other non-governmental institution in Idaho, reportedly hundreds of millions of dollars. However, St. Luke's executives and attorneys have refused to turn over their financial compensation records for Chris Roth during 2020 through 2022. Either way, during COVID, Chris Roth received a significant pay increase, was promoted to CEO, and received unknown bonuses and kickbacks. The organization he runs, St. Luke's Health System, financially benefited astronomically during COVID by receiving massive government subsidies in the hundreds of millions of dollars. All of these funds were controlled by Chris Roth. Therefore, the statement that Chris Roth personally benefited from the pandemic is absolutely true and cannot be defamatory. In fact, it appears to be so true that Chris Roth himself will not produce his finances through discovery. Now, statement number 6. The infant possibly could lose his life because of the decisions of people at St. Luke's who don't even care about the infant. When I made this statement, Cyrus had been in St. Luke's care for several days. It was reported then and has become confirmed in the medical records that Cyrus had not been taking a bottle well. Cyrus had not defecated while in St. Luke's care. Cyrus was becoming less and less responsive to the medical staff. Cyrus was vomiting often and excessively. Cyrus had to receive fluids through an IV. Staff had inserted a nasal feeding tube into Cyrus to get him nutrition. Cyrus was being restrained by medical staff so he would not pull his tubes out. All of these negative developments occurred while Cyrus was in the care of St. Luke's staff. Nearly all of these effects were caused because Cyrus was being held away from his nursing and caring mother. While in the care of his mother, he was taking the bottle. Cyrus was defecating properly. Cyrus was happy, attentive, and very responsive. Cyrus would vomit only when certain foods were given him, but his mother had him on an eating schedule that helped minimize the vomiting. Cyrus did not vomit while he was nursing exclusively with breast milk. Cyrus did not need a nasal feeding tube to receive nutrition. He was getting it from breast milk. Cyrus would fluctuate in weight gain depending on the food that his mother would introduce to him, minimizing or increasing his cyclic vomiting. Cyrus could always go back to his mother's breast milk when other foods and formulas caused him to vomit. As I referenced before, St. Luke's administration, CPS agents, and law enforcement decided not to allow Cyrus's mother to come into the hospital to visit and nourish him through breastfeeding. As I mentioned before, St. Luke's staff left Cyrus in his vomit for long enough of a period that Cyrus's face was burnt from his stomach acid. I believe that if St. Luke's staff, CPS agents, and law enforcement had not lifted the restriction allowing Cyrus's mother to feed him breast milk, Cyrus would have continued to decline to the point that he may have lost his life. Therefore, the statement that the infant possibly could lose his life because of the decisions of people at St. Luke's who don't even care about the infant is true and cannot be legally defamatory. Statement number 7, and final statement, that Judge Fortier had taken hundreds of children with this Dr. Natasha Erickson. Again, this is not exactly how I said it. Well, let's go with the way St. Luke's attorneys drafted it in the complaint anyway. First, let's look at Judge Fortier. She handles almost all of the CPS cases in Ada County, the largest county in the state. In the first hearing with Cyrus's parents, she falsely accused them of terrible things that were not true in any manner, and she had no evidence of it. She either was not aware of the facts or had them all wrong or just didn't care. Even the CPS attorneys were surprised by her false and exaggerated accusations. At the end of the hearing, she ruled that Cyrus would go into foster care and scheduled another hearing for the following month, meaning Cyrus would not go back to his parents for at least another month. Judge Fortier did all of this with great procedural contempt. Idaho CPS takes an average of 4 children per day in Idaho, and Judge Fortier handles many of those cases. So my statement about Judge Fortier is certainly true. She has been responsible in taking hundreds of children away from their parents. There is so much more I could say about Judge Lori Fortier. Things like her live-in partner works for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, and she is responsible for getting federal funds to CPS when they take a child into foster care. But I will hold off on these facts for now. Now, let's look at my statement about Dr. Natasha Erickson. Was it true as well? Well, when I made the statement, it was intended to be more general. However, I did say this doctor. So let's take a look at Dr. Natasha Erickson. She is a pediatric doctor in the largest children's hospital in Idaho. Immediately when Cyrus's parents did not agree with her medical advice, she threatened to call CPS to have their child taken from them. This behavior did not appear to be random or isolated, but reactive. This behavior is narcissistic behavior that is unprofessional and extremely coercive, and is used to put fear in parents so they will obey a doctor against their better judgment. When I was told what Dr. Erickson did, and then experienced what Judge Fortier did, I concluded that they had done this hundreds of times, not necessarily together, but that they had done this many, many times. When Diego requested that St. Luke's send documents to determine how many times Dr. Erickson had reported parents to CPS, St. Luke's attorneys once again refused to give up this information. As a defendant in this case, Diego has a right to this information through the legal discovery process. This is the only statement that I made that has not been verified. I do believe that both Judge Fortier and Dr. Erickson are responsible for taking hundreds of children away from their parents. Systematically, they have done this together. However, never did I intend for this statement to mean that they conspired with each other to take children. I just don't know that. Therefore, the statement that Judge Fortier had taken hundreds of children with this doctor, Natasha D. Erickson, is true, as I intended it. If my statement was proven to be incorrect, I would immediately apologize to Dr. Erickson and pay any reasonable damages that I have caused her. St. Luke's attorneys should send the legal discovery to Diego if they have any evidence otherwise. I believe my statement is correct. I believed it when I made it, and I believe it now. I believe both Judge Fortier and Dr. Natasha Erickson are systematically responsible for taking hundreds of children from their parents. Now, St. Luke's executives sued Diego and I for one reason and one reason only. They want to silence us. The truth about what they did to Cyrus is very damning to them. And the fact that they make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars annually off of children taken by CPS is something they don't want the public to know. They stepped into a mess when they took Cyrus because Diego and I had a voice to call them out. And Diego was Cyrus's grandfather, is Cyrus's grandfather. And now St. Luke's is trying to use every method accessible to silence our voice, including especially state compulsion. Now, I made a statement at the beginning of this video that if I had assessed this correctly, St. Luke's executives would go as far as to kill us to have us silenced. And that is a big statement, and I realize that that is a huge statement. However, I believe that St. Luke's executives will push the courts to order the police and the sheriffs to kill us if we do not shut up. In fact, recently, St. Luke's executives and attorneys filed for an injunction asking the court to order Diego and I to take down any online information about St. Luke's. And the court ordered Diego and I to never talk publicly about St. Luke's plaintiffs again. Diego and I are breaking the law for even speaking about St. Luke's now. Even though every sheriff and police officer in Idaho have taken an oath to uphold the United States Constitution, including the First Amendment, preventing the government from making laws that prohibit the freedom of speech, what do you think law enforcement will do when the judge orders them to stop Diego and I from speaking or publishing the truth about St. Luke's? What do you think? Should Diego and I comply and forever abandon truth? Should we become the example of fascism prevailing in the United States of America? Should we offend God and become silent when wickedness against the most innocent, our children, is being witnessed? Should we just sit down and shut up even when they take our children from us? No, we can't. I know personally I will continue to defend people and the truth as long as I have breath in me, and I'm certain Diego will do the same, no matter the consequences. I do pray that St. Luke's executives and board of directors will recognize the wickedness that is happening inside their institution, that they will train their staff to respect parents and the decisions parents make for their children, even if they disagree, that they will train their staff and discipline them when they threaten parents, and stop all participation in taking children from their parents. The pushback that St. Luke's, CPS, and Bundy Police has received because they took Cyrus was needed and has served as a strong check for these institutions. If St. Luke's continues to push this issue, I pray that God will protect us as he has in the past, and will use this circumstance to demonstrate how good people must protect themselves from the wicked or they will be overcome. Thank you.
boo.